Here's an uncomfortable truth about most stock market disasters. By the time they happen, the warning signs were already sitting in public filings for anyone who cared to look. SpaceX just lost more than half its value in 6 weeks, trillions in paper wealth gone. Elon Musk's brief moment as the world's first trillionaire gone with it. And the easy story is to call this a shock.
Trillionaire, but it's a status he's just lost, as soaring shares in his company SpaceX come back down to earth.
A sudden reversal nobody saw coming. That story is wrong. Almost every ingredient of this collapse was visible months before it happened. Not in a crystal ball, in the numbers. This is the story of what was already there and why almost nobody wanted to look at it until the price forced them to. To understand what got ignored, you first have to understand what got built. SpaceX went public in one of the largest debuts in market history, and the excitement was close to universal. The company had genuine, real achievements behind it. Reusable rockets, a functioning satellite internet business and Starlink, government launch contracts that actual national space agencies depended on. This wasn't a story company. It had engineering to back it up. But the IPO structure did something specific. It released only a small sliver of total shares onto the public market. Limited supply, enormous demand, a founder with a documented history of turning belief into billions. The price rocketed past $200 to $25 a share almost immediately, pushing the company's paper value into the trillions. At moments like this, a dangerous assumption tends to take hold, that a company's technical brilliance and its stock price are the same measurement. They are not, and the gap between them is exactly where the warning signs were hiding. Sign 1, the multiple. Before the crash, SpaceX was trading at roughly 100 times its expected revenue. Tesla, another Musk company, another investor favorite, was trading at around 15 times revenue during the same period. A trader didn't need inside information to notice that gap. It was sitting in public analyst notes for anyone comparing the two. Sign 2, the losses. SpaceX had reported a net loss of nearly $5 billion the year before its public debut. That number wasn't hidden. It was in the disclosures investors were buying against. A company can absolutely be young and unprofitable and still succeed, but pricing that company at a premium above a profitable, established competitor is a bet with almost no margin for disappointment built in. Sign 3, how much of the price was actually one man's reputation? SpaceX's valuation wasn't just pricing rockets and satellites, it was pricing Musk himself. His reach, his following, his ability to generate headlines with a single post. That's a real asset. It's also an unusually fragile one, because it depends entirely on one person's continued ability to hold public attention and confidence. Any company whose valuation leans this heavily on a single personality is by definition one bad news cycle away from a re-rating. Sign 4, the technical stumble everyone already expected. An aborted Starship launch attempt happened before the worst of the sell-off, and while SpaceX recovered and completed the mission on a retry, the episode was a reminder that some of the company's biggest future promises depend on extremely difficult, unproven technology. Investors who were pricing in flawless execution for years into the future had already been given a preview of what happens when execution wobbles even briefly. Sign 5, the calendar itself. IPO lockup periods, the windows during which early employees and investors are contractually barred from selling, have a known, predictable expiration date. That date was not a surprise. It was public information from the moment of the IPO. Anyone tracking the calendar could see a moment coming when a wave of new potential sellers would enter the market. At the exact same time, enthusiasm was already cooling. None of these 5 signs, on their own, guaranteed a crash. Together, they described a stock priced for perfection, sitting on a calendar with a built-in reason for new selling pressure. That combination has ended badly before, in other companies, in other decades. It ended badly here too. What actually triggered the fall wasn't one single event. It was the slow accumulation of doubt, finally overwhelming the story. As questions about spending and timelines got louder, the same scarcity that had pushed the price up on the way up began working in reverse on the way down. Fewer natural buyers stepping in, more holders looking for an exit, and short sellers who had already been circling the stock, betting specifically on this gap between price and fundamentals, adding pressure of their own. Within 6 weeks, shares fell from above $225 to near $110, erasing roughly $1.5 trillion in value and pushing even IPO price buyers into a loss. Musk's trillionaire status didn't survive the correction either. Here's the part worth sitting with. Nothing about SpaceX's underlying business changed in those 6 weeks. Starlink didn't stop generating revenue. The launch contracts didn't disappear. What changed was that the market stopped being willing to pay a near-perfect price for a company that still had ordinary, visible risks sitting in its own disclosures. The disaster wasn't really about SpaceX failing. It was about a price that had never left room for SpaceX to be merely good instead of flawless. The uncomfortable lesson isn't that Musk or SpaceX did anything uniquely reckless. It's that every one of the warning signs in this story, an inflated revenue multiple, a personality-dependent valuation, an unresolved technical risk, a known future date when more shares hit the market, are the exact same signs that have preceded other, less famous stock corrections for decades. They're rarely secret. They're usually sitting in a filing, a chart, or a calendar, waiting for enough people to stop ignoring them. That's really the difference between an investor who gets caught off guard and one who doesn't. Not access to secret information, but the discipline to actually check the numbers behind a story before buying into it. And this is where it gets uncomfortable for anyone watching this and thinking it's only a SpaceX problem. Ask yourself how many stocks you've bought, or almost bought, because of a founder's confidence rather than a spreadsheet. The 5 signs in this video weren't unique to rockets and satellites. A stretched revenue multiple, a business leaning on one person's reputation, an unresolved technical or operational risk, a known date when more shares or more supply hits the market. Those same signs show up again and again in industries that have nothing to do with space travel. They showed up before other famous collapses. They will show up again before the next one. None of this means SpaceX is finished, or that betting on ambitious companies is a mistake. Some of the biggest fortunes in market history were made by people who bought into a vision before it was proven. The difference is, they still checked the numbers on the way in. They didn't skip that step just because the story was exciting. The real lesson from this crash isn't avoid ambition, it's don't pay a price that only makes sense if everything goes perfectly, forever. If you want more stories about the moments right before the fall, not just the fall itself, subscribe to the Insight Code. Every week we go back and find what was hiding in plain sight, so you don't have to learn it the expensive way.